Welcome to our next edition of Beyond the Bar. I'm super excited today here to have Oksana Davydova.
Thank you.
Oksana, we always known you as the one who's doing the interview or conducting the questions. And today we get a little glimpse at you behind the scenes, your journey, your success story, your future aspirations in the political field, and how that's going to play into your future aspirations as an attorney and your job that you do now. We're all very interested to hear. And I said to you the other day, I said, let's do you, because there's so many new things happening that, we want to hear. So welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you.
So inquiring minds want to know. You're currently self-employed. You have your own practice, practicing workers' comp. You were at several firms before. Give us a little bit of insight in your journey, why you decided to do law, why you thought that this was the right path for you, and how you came about.
Oh, wow. It's interesting to be in the hot seat.
Yeah, you're in the hot seat now.
Thank you, Margarita. As always, a pleasure to be here with you, even though I'm on the other side now. I think, listening to our guests, I agree with a lot of them and could say I had a similar journey in terms of like the trajectory, right? Of how I went from college to law school and, now owning my own practice and all the in between, as we can call it. So, interestingly enough, I worked for a doctor's office. And I was there for 10 years when I was in high school, middle school, high school, and then some in college. But I always knew I wanted to go to law school. And while I was at the doctor's office, my mom used to be like, you should be a doctor, a doctor, a doctor. I like listening to people. And when I was in college, I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? If not law school, maybe a therapist. That would have been a psychiatrist, which is not any different than we do now, right? What we do all the time. We listen to our clients and we counsel them, essentially the same thing. After college, I took 3 years off and then I went to law school. And in the 3 years, I dabbled in a lot of different things. I took some classes with regards to psychology and sociology to see if I wanted to try the therapy route. And eventually I just decided on law school, went to law school. I did my first year in Toro and then I transferred into CUNY Law School. For different reasons. And I liked law school, but one thing I did in law school, I would say that I wish I could do, if I had the chance to go back now and do it, and I say this to students all the time, I'd enjoy it more. I feel like I was so stressed and so on edge all the time that I didn't have time to actually enjoy it for what it was. And so I tell this to students all the time, it's like, just have fun, don't think too much about it. And maybe it's just me and my nature because I have to make sure everything's done a certain way. But law school was definitely a roller coaster. You've heard us say this before. There was days you're like, I think I'm done. I don't know if I want to keep doing this. I've definitely had those days. And then you have that one exam, right? And that one exam determines your whole grade for the class. And you're like, oh my God, if I fail, I'm done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could tell you a lot of crazy stories during law school, which, we've shared here before. But after law school, what happened is that, I don't want to be one of those people to say, oh, I'm a woman in the law and I had all these obstacles and all this stuff. I feel like we all have obstacles, regardless of who you are. And you try your best to overcome those obstacles, right? Whether it be getting a job at a law school or the particular job that you want or particular areas. And I happened to graduate during the crash. What was it? 2014 I graduated. So it was still, people were hiring us, pennies on the dollar. Yeah. And it was like, you do all the work, you pay for gas, you go to court, you do this, you do that. And I'm like, what's left for me?
Yeah.
And I remember I had just had, I sat for the bar pregnant and I was like itching to go back to get to work, to find a job. And everybody was like, where are you in a rush to? I'm like, I don't know. I have to start my career. They're like, you'll start it. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to be irrelevant. And they're like, no, with time, you'll be fine. So I took a job and, I remember I took a job. I was waiting to get licensed because you have to wait until your paperwork's processed. So another misconception, people think, oh, I passed the bar. That's it. I'm a lawyer.
Yeah. You got to wait to be admitted.
Right. And I think, what do they do admissions? Once a month?
Yeah, I think it is once.
Yeah, in New York, they do it once a
Once a
month,
month.
and for the second department,
Mhm.
and so you have to wait. And before, so after you pass the bar, it's like a application process. That's a very long application that you have to fill out, and make sure everything's there, all your recommendations, all the people, if I recall correctly, prior people you worked for, and then you apply, and then they go through that application. It takes time, unfortunately, so you have to be patient.
Yeah, you have to be patient, right?
And then you get called in for an interview, right? And then you get called with the interviewer. He signs off on your paperwork, and then you get the next admission cycle.
Right.
So I think from when October was the bar, and I got admitted in May because there was an issue with my paperwork. But I was working in a firm as, I guess, what do they call it? I wasn't working as an attorney per se. I was working like a paralegal, because I didn't have license yet.
Yeah.
So
Is that funny in between moment? Yeah.
right. So where you're still like on the paralegal salary.
Yeah. Transitioning
with loans. I worked, interestingly enough, I was doing foreclosures in Brooklyn for the small boutique law firm.
Foreclosures. Oh, that's far.
Yeah.
Far away from where you are now.
Oh, yeah. So I started out doing foreclosures. I used to drive to Brooklyn. It was such a schlep. And it was okay, but I wasn't not particularly happy with it. So I remember I was talking to a friend of mine from law school, and I'm like, listen, I was like, I really don't like it here. I want to do something else. She's like, you know how bad the job market is right now? I was like, I know. And what's interesting was, like, I was working full time, which is fine. I had a baby at home. I was paying the babysitter. The babysitter I think at the time was making more money than I was, because by the time, you drive, your insurance, this, that, the babysitter was definitely making more than I was. I'm like, whatever. But I find out I was pregnant, and I had pregnant with my second kid. And so I was like, who's going to hire me? And she's like,
well, yeah, we have those moments where we're kind of like, oh my God, do we say, do we not say, do we wait? Like, you don't want to jeopardize your.
It was always a thing, because I remember, and I'll never forget, after, just to backtrack a little bit, when you graduate, before you graduate, right? I think in the third year, you have interviews, you send out for jobs. Now, I had just found out I was pregnant. After I sent out the interviews, I found out I was pregnant.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't know how this is going to work, but we'll give it a try. So I was telling the career counselor, I was like, what do I tell them? I have interviews coming up. And she's like, just don't mention it. And I'm like, I can't really do that, because I'm doing October. The job starts in September. I'm not going to come in like a balloon and not mention it, like, hi.
And take maternity a month later.
So when I was interviewing, I was very upfront about it. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, I could possibly make it work at then and there, because I wanted the job. But thank God I didn't get it, because, like, I wouldn't even know how to make it work. I literally had the baby in October, and I was home for a couple months, and then I went back to work. At the foreclosure place, I found the job and went back to work. And so I don't regret it. Looking at it now, I'm like, I was upset then, but I don't regret anything, because I'm a firm believer of your trajectory is where you're meant to be, slowly.
Yeah.
So from there I went to the foreclosures for a little bit. After I left there, I started I want to call it, I don't want to say, I guess a firm. Not a firm, I would say this representative was looking for lawyers to do per diem work.
Okay.
In workers' comp. Now, I've never heard of workers' comp. Like, ever. I'm like, okay, what is it? So my friend from law school, she's like to me, there's this guy, I know he's looking for lawyers to do per diem work. I'm like, okay. So I reached out to him, and he's like, when can you start? I'm like, well, I'm like 5 months pregnant. He's like, okay, whatever. He's like, you can stop working, you can continue working, whatever works for you. I said, okay. So what I liked about it was a per diem job.
Mm-hmm.
And he trained me. And interestingly enough, when I was working for him, and I would be in courts all the time, I'd have other people ask me if I could do per diem for them. So, and I picked it up, and what I would do sometimes was, if I would sit in the courtrooms and I would listen to the way other attorneys did hearings and trials, so that I can understand and learn from them.
What's happening, right?
Yes. And so, unfortunately, not a lot of people do that anymore. I don't know why, but I loved it. Yeah. And I learned so much from it. Not having to, first of all, how to respond properly, right? Because this is a world I've never, been in. I was like,
That's a good tip for all those new attorneys out there who, you want to know how to conduct yourselves in the courtroom. And if you've never been in one, maybe it's a good idea to just kind of like test it out for a couple of weeks and just be present and listen, because I think that's a great idea.
yeah, because most of them are public. So you can literally go into any courtroom, especially like when I used to do foreclosures, even before foreclosure in law school, I was in courtrooms all the time. During the internships, I was always in courtrooms, and they're public forums. So you could just literally sit there and listen and hear what's going on and see what's going on, and, just watch people. Sometimes just watching people, you could learn so much.
Yeah.
Like we do, right?
Yeah.
As counsel, like we talk to clients, and I could get so much from a person just by watching how they react and how they act.
Yeah, exactly.
So I learned a lot like that, and I picked it up, and I started doing per diem, and then I got a job offer. A couple of months later, about a year or so, I got a job offer. I took it. It didn't last there long, and I didn't like the environment, and I'm like, you know what, it's not for me. So I left. I went back to doing per diem. I loved it.
It's convenient, flexible.
It is very convenient. I had 2 small kids at the time. And it was very flexible. It was very convenient. I say this till this day. I say this even now till this day. I felt like I was working for my babysitters, literally, not them working for me. Yeah. They were great. I have no complaints. I had great, amazing babysitters. But what I mean in terms of that is that I worked according to their schedule. Right. They would be like, okay, I can't work this day. I can't work that way. So as a professional, it was like, okay, I can't keep taking off,
Yeah, it's hard.
And so I'm blessed to be able to say I had a per diem job where I made my schedule, and what I would do is I would like try to get in as much as that particular day, so that I work the day I have to be off, I could be off, right? And I worked around their schedule. And I remember one of my friends used to be like, I don't understand, who's hiring who here? I'm like, I know, but you know what? It's fine, because I'd rather have this than not knowing who else to hire. And they were great people. They did an amazing job. I can't say anything.
At that time, it's pretty important that you have people who you can trust that are responsible to watch your kids, because you can't do that with everyone. So I understand that.
So exactly, I agree with you. So if I was at work, I had a peace of mind because I didn't have to worry about my children. So that is like the biggest thing. And you could work without anybody bothering you, So I did that for a while, and then after I had had another kid while doing the per diem, I was so good, I was comfortable. And in between all this, when I was in between in and out of maternity, I had 2 good friends that I had met. One when I was doing like a short stint somewhere, and then another one in law school. And I'd bump into them occasionally. We're good friends now. We weren't good friends before. We were just like acquaintances. And I was like, listen, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, I'm at this job. I'm not really happy. And so I'm like, why don't you come, do comp and I'll teach you. So both of them, I'm not going to say who, I got them into comp. So while I was on maternity, they were doing it for me. They were working with others to the jobs, like the per diems I had. So I introduced them, and they both do it now. Wow. They do very well. Yeah.
So you introduced them basically.
Yeah. And I'm happy I did. I'm all for teaching people. I've taught a lot of different people, like paralegals, in terms of like understanding comp or anything like that.
So just to go off topic for a second, workers' comp, for those who don't know, just give us a little brief description about what it is.
Sure. So workers' comp is a little bit different than personal injury. It's getting injured on the job. Legally, by law, all employers have to have workers' comp insurance to cover you just in case you as an employee get injured. So that it would cover your medical benefits and your indemnity benefits. So what does that mean? If you cannot return to work, they have to cover 2/3 of your average weekly wage of your salary, whatever you make on a weekly wage. And, in the end, if after you're done treating and after everything's done, you are entitled compensation, like a lump sum award compensation. But again, it all depends on your injuries. It depends on whether you continued working or not. A lot of different factors come into play.
Right. So it is personal injury. It's nuanced in the fact that it's personal injury while on the job.
Yes, but some cases, and this, like some people who drive Uber, Lyft, they are on the job and they get into actions. So they have
can
two
have
separate
both.
actions. Yeah.
Right.
So we have two separate actions.
So they hire you and me.
Yes. Yes. And we work together. And I tell this to clients all the time. Did you advise your other attorney? No, I just told you why we're working together, you know?
Exactly.
So, and I'm a big proponent of working with other attorneys and literally working with them.
Yeah.
I've had situations where attorneys do not work with you and just settle cases and don't advise you. And then clients come in angry. I'm like, well, I wasn't advised, you know, if you settled. I say most of the time it's better to settle the comp first because of a lot of nuances you have to pay attention to. So I would say about anywhere from 75 to 80% of the time, settle the comp first.
Okay.
It's just better for the clients because of the treatment issues and everything else. Sometimes it's not done that way, unfortunately, and then the client suffers. So it depends on the situation. Not always, but it depends on the situation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
okay, so I'm sorry I took you off.
That's okay. Fine. I was like, I could go on and on and on about comp.
But yeah, a lot of people don't know what is exactly workers' comp. But
right.
Yeah.
So with that, I went, I was doing per diem. I came back. This firm was hiring out of Long Island, and whenever we're in court, right, we're always working with different counsel, whether it be opposing counsel. Sometimes from our side goes to opposing counsel, from the opposing counsel comes to the plaintiff side. So we always have different, we get to know each other in the attorney room, or we used to be, we're all virtual now. And I met this attorney, and I've known her for years, and we used to always bump into each other. And she's like, listen, we're hiring. I'm like, thank you. I'm not looking for a job. And she's like to me, listen, I think you'd be really good. I'm like, you know what? I don't know. I was like, I had such bad experiences. I don't know if I want to go work for somebody. She's like, just give it a try. She's like, you're going to love it here. She's like, I've been here for, so many years. They're so good. They're so accommodating. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try. I applied to work for them. And I have to say, at the time, I don't know what got into me, but I became very like, you know what? It's my way or the highway type of thing. Because I'm like, I'm not looking for work. Somebody was like, they were looking for work. They're looking, they're looking for somebody. I'm comfortable where I am, and I'm okay with that. So when I went to interview, and I'll never forget it. And, he was the most funniest, the managing partner. I don't want to say his name, and I'm sure people will know what I'm talking about. The nicest guy ever, the funniest guy ever. I'm like, am I being interviewed or punked? Because I wasn't sure how he's just so easy to just chat with. And I'm like, this is an interview? I'm like, okay. So, and then I was like to him, listen, with all due respect, he's like, so can you work 5 days a week? I'm like, with all due respect, I was like, I think I said this before. I was like, the most I could do right now is 3 days a week. And again, that was because of the babysitter that I had. She's like, she only worked 4 days a week, and I could only do 3 because she always had like different, things she had to do, which is fine. And then I was like, when my baby goes to daycare, I could give you the 5 days a week, right? Interestingly enough, one thing I learned, and everybody should listen up here. He's like, how much are you looking for? So I told him my salary, and he's like to me, that's a little bit much, because he's like, not much in terms of like, for the industry standards, like, I just don't know you so well to know what kind of work you do, right? Like your experience, because I was in the city and this is a Long Island firm.
Right.
And I said, okay, I was like, I'll make you a deal. So what did I do? I negotiated.
Which is what lawyers do.
Yes, but I've learned to negotiate for myself like much better as I grew, because I feel like we are our own worst negotiate for ourselves. But for others, we negotiate very well.
We second guess ourselves a little.
Right. So when I gave him the price, he's like, I can't offer you that, but he's like, I'll offer you this much, and then we'll revisit in 6 months. I said, no problem. And I was like, in 6 months, we'll revisit whether I can work for you full time or not. And because he didn't want anybody for 3 days, because it's unheard of, right? In the industry to work 3 days a week. What do you mean? You're a lawyer. And interestingly enough, they had somebody already working 3 days a week, a woman. And so he's like, whatever. He's like, I have somebody else, let's give this a try. I said, okay. And I worked 3 days a week. 6 months later, we negotiated. I got my salary that I wanted, and I started working 5 days a week. And so when people ask me the 3 days, so whatever my salary was, I was just prorated for 3 days. And then I was there for 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I liked it there. I loved it there. I had no complaints. My only problem was I was bored. I was very bored, because I felt like it was the same thing over and over and over again. I wasn't given any new responsibilities or nothing like new, like how does the trajectory in lawyers come, right? Like we're an associate attorney for so long, and then you want to do something else, like either a partner or some other position where you want to do more and out of the same, the same thing that you keep doing it over. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't bored in terms of what I was doing because I'm a litigator, right? I litigate all day. I would handle anywhere from on the court calendar, anywhere from 20 to 40 cases a week in court, if not more. I touch about 50 to 100 cases a week by reviewing them, if not in court or just reviewing for settlement or whatever it is. So I wasn't bored in that aspect. I was bored because I felt like I had nothing. I needed more to do.
Growth.
Yeah, I needed growth, and I was stuck. So, and interestingly enough, I had an offer from another firm where they offered me a partnership position, but we both agreed that it would be on probationary, because I don't know them, you don't know me, and I don't want to get stuck with something. So what happens is I come up to my boss, who I had such a great relationship with, and I told him exactly what I'm telling you. I love it here. I really don't want to go, but I have to. And he was like,
No.
I understand you. He said no. He's like, you can't do this. I'm like, I know. He's like, but I understand you. I said, I'm sorry. And he's like, and literally like saying the words, I couldn't believe them because I just had to do it. And so I did it.
Sometimes you got to do what's best for you.
I know, but you know what the interesting part is? It's hard. It's very hard because you never know, right? It's like, oh my God,
Yeah,
what
you're
if...
going into the unknown.
Yeah.
Looking back now, do you think you made the right decision?
Yes. I ended up working with the firm that I was supposed to be a partner in. I was in there about, I would say 6-7 months, something like that. Unfortunately, things didn't work out. And then I just left. And then I was in the unknown, like real unknown. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing?
That was your awakening.
Yeah. And so people asked, so it took a month or so to just, a couple months to just reevaluate. I mean, I had some other issues going on, so I had to make sure everything was settled. And so I was reevaluating. I'm like, what do I want to do? At the time, I had a lot of attorneys tell me, who've known me for a while, do it on your own, do it on your own. Even before that, a lot of attorneys just tell me, why don't you do it on your own, do it on your own. It's so much easier said than done, right? And you know this. You could definitely open up shop anywhere.
Yeah.
You can get an office, you could get a WeWork, you could get anything, right? But like doing it now, I understand more than ever, like, okay, it's the networking, the clients, the constant legal work, the deadlines, everything in between. So, when I was saying I was bored, I'm not bored anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, your HR, payroll, administration, the attorney,
Right,
all the paperwork person.
Right.
So,
you understand this.
Yeah.
So, and so I don't know why. I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try. I'm telling you, a friend of mine, she's like, come, I'm about to move into an office. Come, work with me out of my office. And I said, okay, whatever. So I come in and I shit you not, I worked out of the conference room for the first month or so, 2 months, because the office she was moving into wasn't ready, and there was a lot of different things that happened, and we didn't move in until months later, which is fine. I worked out of the conference room. I had an office at home, so I would work like from home or from the conference room if I had to meet clients.
Right.
And then I moved in with her, and then within a year from the time I was in the conference room to when moving in with her into the big suite, I got my own suite. I was like, you know what? I need more space. I hired one person, then I hired another person, then I hired another person. So
you grew.
I did. And you know what? It was a lot because as I'm growing, right, you still have the same things in your mind, like, oh my God, what about this? Oh my God, what about that? And it's always going to be there. Unfortunately, I realize this now. It's always going to be there.
And you're not getting a paycheck.
Oh, exactly. So that's the other thing. I'm gonna get to that next. The one thing that was also a lot on my mind and still is, like, somebody asked me, so how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing okay. They're like, so have you been, making money? I was like, I'm making money, but I'm not making money. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? I'm like, well, there's so much expenses, I'm like,
overhead.
I haven't paid myself in a year and a half already. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, there's overhead. I have employees. I have to make sure everybody else gets paid before I pay myself.
Rent, utilities.
Right. everything.
Everything.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I've yet to pay myself. And they're like to me, well, then you're not profitable. I'm like, well, I just started. I'm like, I don't assume to be profitable yet. I'm hoping that in the future, that's the whole goal, right? You're not profitable in the first, year to 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'm only in my second year coming in now. So I'm hoping to be profitable.
Well, it's getting there, right? You should be hitting that cycle soon.
Yeah. So it's been a journey. I mean, I could talk about it for days, like the everything. You become not just the what is it, the legal, you're not just practicing law. I went from practicing law
to being a business
to being a businesswoman. Yeah. And a lot comes with it. It's the headaches don't stop. So even if you're having an amazing day with like, oh, I just won a case.
Yeah.
I got a settlement. Then you're like, something happens with administration or HR or payroll or whatever. And it's like all hats in one. And I'm trying to navigate the best that I can. And so far, thank God, with its ups and downs, I'm doing okay.
Are there days that you go back and be like, oh, why did I even get into this?
Every day. Every day. My husband and I have a joke. I'm like, I go to sleep every night retiring, and I wake up every morning saying, I'm late to court. I'm late to work. He's like, I thought you retired. I'm like, no. That was last night. This morning I gotta go to work.
Yeah. That's it.
So because you know what it is? It's like, obviously when I say retire, I'm joking, right? You get so overwhelmed sometimes and you're like, do I want to keep doing this? Do I want to do something else? And yeah, there's a lot of different things I want to do in the future, but right now I'm okay with where I am.
Well, you started dabbling a little bit in some like MBAs and no fault also, which is you always wanted to, and getting some of that part of the business in, and which is also a really good part of the business you can add into your practice.
Yeah, so slowly, thank you for mentioning, because they're also connected.
Yeah.
A lot of the times we have workers' comp clients, what happens is that they don't go to work back to work due to their injuries being severe. And we'll again look at different factors, depends on the age, depends on a lot of different things. We help them apply for Social Security disability.
Right.
And sometimes with the MVA clients, right? What do I do? A lot of the times I refer them out to personal injury attorneys such as yourself or others, or I just keep them in-house. So somebody like some people like, oh, I want to stay with you. Okay, whatever. So I do keep it in-house. I've done it before, so I have an idea of how to handle it. And I have a mentor. So if I have any questions, I call my friend who does PI or like others. And I have to say, people are very helpful. Yeah, like they're really out there to help you. I think I've called you before in a case, and you've called me like about calm, and I always like.
Yeah, you tell me they're like, this is you're not going anywhere with this.
No, but I'm very like I think people know me and I'm very straightforward.
You're very straightforward. Like you're not gonna beat around. I said, is there any options here? No.
And I look at a lot of options, right? I look at the disability, the how can we go about a different way? Because I think as any lawyer, you look at all points of views before you stick to something.
And not all attorneys do disability law, which is sometimes it's usually you don't want to have to resort to it, but you have to.
Right.
So that's helpful.
Yeah. So, so it's, it hasn't been that bad. And, we'll see what the future holds. Slowly but surely, you will get there. Interestingly enough, I had somebody ask me, this past week I had a client who asked me, how do you like being a lawyer? I'm like, I guess it's okay. I don't know which aspect you mean it by, I'm like, I have good days, I have bad days like everybody else. I can't say it's always perfect.
Right.
And then they're like to me, my kid's thinking about going to law school. What do you think he should do? I'm like, well, that's such a hard question to ask because everybody's different. Right. And I know you and I sit here all the time and we're like, everybody wants to do personal injury because they think it's like the glitz, the glamour and everything else. But it's a lot of work and it's stressful. And sometimes there's days you're like, oh my God, I don't want to do this anymore. Right. But then and you have to have a particular patience and a particular character for it, because not everybody can do it. And that's the one thing I think I tell people all the time is like, you have to see if it's something you can do and live with, right?
Yeah.
Because like we have people who do divorce law and they're good at it. They have empathy towards people. And then people who do transactional work because they hate the courtroom completely and don't want to litigate. And so I say this all the time, like, first of all, start off with doing internships. And it's okay if it's for free, because you could learn so much. You could either learn, you know what, I'm never doing this, or you could say, I love it, this is what I want to do.
Right.
In which case you have a foot in the door and you get a job.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And it's hard to explain it, but then you know what I told him? I said, I'm gonna give you the link to our podcast.
To take a listen. Right?
Yes, and it's and I do that sometimes when people ask me. I was like, you should listen to our podcast. We have so many guests who are different areas of the law, and they have so much to say.
Perspectives.
Yeah, and I have gotten feedback saying that they loved it. So if anybody has great feedback, we're here to listen.
Yeah, I was getting my nails done the other day. She's like, I love your podcast. She's like, it's so interesting listening to all these stories. Right. I'm like, that's nice to hear, you know? It's like it piques people's interest.
Right,
so
right.
It's all right. So tell us now, as far as your future aspirations are. Recently, you've had some circumstances that kind of fell into your lap that have maybe pivoted you into a new direction. So tell us a little bit about that.
It's so interesting because we were talking about, somebody mentioned it to you.
Yeah, we were actually in a podcast with somebody else, and he said, and he was telling me about it, and I said, I'm looking at you, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, how come you didn't?
Because it just happened. It just happened.
She's like, oh, it just happened. It just happened. I'm like, well, he knows about it, so it didn't just happen.
So I'll tell you the story. It's actually very funny. Just to give a little background, I do, besides my legal work, I help out with a nonprofit organization, all about kindness. I'm sure you've heard about it. Yes. Interestingly enough, I started out, I saw her posts and everything, and I used to donate, right? Like anybody.
Right.
And as I learned more about it, I'm like, oh my God, she does such amazing work.
I love shout out to Mila. All about kindness.
All about kindness.
And all the amazing work you do for the community. God bless you.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I'm so surprised and mind boggled that people still don't know about her. And somebody was like to me, oh, you're so biased. I'm like, no. I'm like, every donation that goes in, almost like I would say 95% of it goes out back into the community. And I always tell her, I'm like, when are you paying yourself? Or anybody else? And people want to volunteer with her. Yeah. And I feel like if people would, the amount of work she does, I know there's other organizations, I'm not going to mention who or what, that do,
there's plenty of organizations
that do a lot of different things, but the amount of work she does, I feel like she doesn't get enough credit or enough fundraising or donations, because she really does go above and beyond. So one time I asked her, like a couple of years ago, listen, if you need help with something, I'm a lawyer. I can help you if you need help with anything, like reading a contract or whatever it is, right? And she's like, oh my God, that's so nice of you. I'm like, yeah, sure. So once or twice she's, and again, as a lawyer, I understand, HIPAA violation, ethics, HIPAA violations, all that stuff, the conflicts, and how people say it's between you and your lawyer. Anytime I help like an organization, if I'm helping her, it's between me and the organization. I don't divulge any information anywhere, nor anybody, nor should anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
So she asked me to look at some cases to like evaluate them, like in terms of needs. So when I was in law school, I did a lot of social services. So I worked my first internship, consumer law. My second internship was in housing. And then I did family law. And I knew a lot about the resources out there.
Right.
And that's my summer internships. And then I did internships when you're in the school itself. And I did healthcare when they were doing the whole Obamacare. So I had a lot of background in social services. Mm-hmm. And even before, when I worked for the doctor's office, like the insurances and everything, I used to help them out in terms of like people who didn't speak English, translate and get them help with how to get insurance or whatever. So social services, I know well. And so like how to get Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, things like that. And the proper channels to send them.
Yeah, which is really, really important to know.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So when people fill out applications, right, and there are people who are in need, whether they lost their job or they had a medical condition or, things happen, single moms.
Yeah.
And so I would evaluate the claim and then just help them out and say, here's your resources, and if they can do the resources, then we'd help. I'd say, this is a family, you could help. I'm on the board, so it wasn't just me, but there's there's a committee. So I did it like a couple of times, and then she asked me a couple more times, so I started helping out on a more regular basis. And then after that, I started doing other things with her in terms of like within the organization. So interestingly enough, I became more involved, and then she would be like with me, there's an event here, there's an event there. And so I became more involved in the community and started going to all these different events where you have politicians.
You're very heavily involved, I see, in the community. Constantly, you're always out and about, networking events,
Yes.
advocating, especially
Yes.
for women's groups
Yes.
and other religious organizations. So I commend you on that. Thank you for your service.
I don't feel like I did anything, but
No, listen, your presence is significant.
sometimes I feel like you need to be there to learn what's going on so that you could educate,
Yeah.
not just the generation now, but our children's generation.
Absolutely.
And that's how, education goes and how people learn. And if I could do something, by all means, I'm ready to help. So I would go to a lot of these events, and I try whenever I can. And we had a couple times a meeting, and I became very good. We've been in a couple of meetings with the assemblywoman for District 25, Nili Rozic. And so her, I know her, and, she knows me, and we've met a couple of events. And interestingly enough, somebody from her office calls me, and they're like, "Hey, listen, we have an interesting position that we wanted to talk to you about." I'm like, "Okay, sure." And so she tells me, she's like, there's the elections coming up this year for assemblywoman, congresswoman, and state senate. And I'm like, okay. And then she's like, well, and again, I didn't know this myself. So she's like, I heard about this like a year or two ago, but I didn't know that there was any open spots or anything. I wasn't even looking. She's like, there's a open seat right now under the state committee. So there's every district apparently has state committee, district leader, then assemblywoman, then council, and state senate, and so on and so on a local level. So I said, okay, can I get a little more information? So she sends me some information. I'm like, can I think about it? She's like, you have 15 minutes to give me an answer. I'm like, okay, but I was actually supposed to get into a meeting with somebody. So I was like, I gotta call you back because I have a meeting, So she's like, okay, no problem. So while I'm in the meeting, multitasking seems to be my go-to. While I'm in the meeting, paying attention, I'm skimming through what she sent me in terms of information about what it is. And just like doing my research as much as I can, because I don't want to say yes to something I don't know about. And I've heard about it before. So she texts me back, and I'm like, okay, give me a couple more minutes and I'll call you back. And interestingly enough, the person we had on, David Aronoff, right? He's the one who mentioned it to you, because what happened, I called him and he's like, I'm busy. So I texted him. I said, what do you think? He's like, of course, do it. He's like, you'd be so good at it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay. So I wanted to, his advice, because he's been in the political arena for a while.
Yeah.
So I agreed. Within 15 minutes, I called her back.
And you said, okay.
And I said, okay. So, and then I was like, so what do I have to do? She's like, okay, you agreed. We'll talk about it, later on. I'm like, okay. So since then, I've had a couple of meetings, and, I got an idea what it's all about. So, and I started already, going around and petitioning.
So tell us about the position, because I know it entails a lot, and feel free to read it.
So the state committee position is like a local grassroots. So from my understanding, it's representing the local party organization at the state meetings. So I would be called upon like a couple times a year to go to the state meetings, and just, if I'm needed, and take notes. And then if I'm needed to make decisions or anything, especially given what's going on in the community, and the district that I'm at. So it's good to be involved, because I think in order, we always complain about things,
Mm-hmm.
but instead of just complaining, you could just do something about it.
Right.
So I said, you know what? Why not? This is a good chance to get into the political arena and see if I want to stay in the political arena in the future or not, and go from there.
I think you're a good fit, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Let's see what happens. I found it interesting because I've already started going around petitioning. So what does petitioning involve? You have to go, you get a list of people who are in the party, and you go around and knock on their doors and, represent yourself and the party we're running under. So I try, and it's hard because it's like a lot of door knocking, and some people don't answer the door. Some people don't want to talk to you.
Well, I'm sure you have a team probably who
So
helps you out.
initially, I did it with them, and then they're like, "Okay, we taught you. Now you do it on your own." So I've been doing it on my own,
Oy.
and
How
I've
do you
been
have time for this? 4 kids, a full-time job, now this.
so I've been taking like 2 hours a day or every other day and doing it, going door to door, and it's been tough. But I have to say, I give the politicians, actually, it's much more work than you think, and I wanted to do it from the beginning, because I'm like, let me just give it see what it's all about. It's very interesting, the door knocking and speaking to
Yeah, I didn't
people.
know that they still do that.
They do. I didn't either. So I said, we still do that? She's like, yes, because she's when whoever I was talking to, and she was explaining it to me, how to fill out the form and everything. What you need is a specific number of signatures to get on the ballot. You can't get on the ballot until the people petition for you. So it's the same thing as petitioning. So people have to sign for you to get on the ballot.
Okay, so are you there? Are you on the ballot already?
No, not yet, because I think they're gonna there's a deadline to submit the signatures by. And I've been collecting signatures. I don't know if I did that well. I think I got like 25, 30, I'm not sure. And and I've done a lot of blocks. But sometimes people aren't home, or people don't want to sign, and there's like language barriers, and
Can you
I
get
understand
someone,
that.
like hire someone to try to do it for you? It has to be you. Oh my.
So it doesn't, I mean, I'm not the only one doing it. There's other people doing
Right,
it.
right.
Like the assemblywoman herself
Yeah.
is doing it. I know people who work for her are doing it. So everybody who's running is doing it, because it's like a whole process. You have to explain it to them. So I did it with them once, and they explained it to me, and it's not so bad. You could, and what I like about it is, like, you go around, and I meet my neighbors that
Yeah.
I don't know,
Mhm.
or and if they want to have a conversation, by all means, I'd love to hear more what's going on.
Right.
And I think this is a good idea, because it's like we're there on the local level, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes people don't know what's going on, like, a specific street or a specific neighborhood.
Zoning issues.
Correct.
Things.
Yeah,
I mean, neighborhoods are changing so rapidly that, it's just it's remarkable, really. There's buildings going up where there used to be houses only, and homeless shelters going up where there used to be hotels. It's just, it's a lot of things that impact
that
our
now.
day-to-day life. Yeah.
I know. And what's interesting is that we don't think about it as much until we see it or we're in it, if you've noticed, right? And when I didn't think so much about it until I had children. I became more aware of a lot more things, because I'm like, oh my God, this affects my children.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're okay in terms of, like, as we get older, and we're like, okay, we could manage, we could adapt, or we know how to change things, but we want to make it better so that our children are able to, because tomorrow we're not going to be around, the kids are going to be around.
Yeah.
And our grandchildren.
Grandchildren, yeah.
Yeah, great grandchildren.
God willing. So you want to try to instill as much change as you can while you're here.
Yes.
Well, I think it's very admirable.
Yes. Thank you.
And I really hope that everything works out. We're excited to see. So when is this election happening?
November.
Okay.
November. I will tell you something I've learned, actually. I spoke to, as I'm sure you know, this past election was the mayor election in New York. And there was a lot of, like, get out the votes, right? And a lot of organizations got involved. I know All About Kindness was doing it, because I was helping her with it too, in terms of getting out the vote. And what do we mean in terms of getting out the vote? The one thing we've noticed then, and I'm noticing even more now, just going door to door knocking, education.
Yeah.
There's such a lack of education with regards to this whole political arena, because everybody's so stuck on parties, right? And it's not just a party situation, because on a local level, it's more about education, right? What is this particular assemblywoman or a particular Congress councilwoman doing for you, as opposed to the one running against them? Like, you really have to see who is more aligned with what your beliefs are, right? For the community.
Well, you're going against a lot of opinion, especially from the Soviet opinion, that my vote isn't going to matter. It's not going to make a difference when the majority is voting like this. But when you have a lot of people that have that opinion, you are actually making a big difference and a big impact, because then you're saying, oh, if this one says that, and if that one says this, then it's a lot of votes. And that could make a big difference in your community.
You're 100% right. And I love that you said that because that's exactly the whole point. The point is that you're in a local community. 5 votes matter.
Yeah.
10 votes matter, you know? And people have this misconception that it's okay if I don't go. I'm only one person, you know? No, it matters.
Absolutely, it matters.
That one vote can
and your district, it's because most of them are people from our community who have that kind of mentality. So it's a mix, but there are a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's, and I would love to just like, I feel like have a whole, you know, auditorium and just like, this isn't about party lines sometimes, but really just about like education. Like, why do you need to vote, right? And vote by your like what you believe in or what their policies are, right? The people you're voting for, what are their policies? Do you believe in their policies? Look, it's very, I just feel like once you have the education out there, it's going to be less about the parties and more about like who you align with.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I'm learning that more and more now. And I think next, like
David Aronoff taught me that.
What?
And like me and him have a very lengthy conversation.
David Aronoff taught me that too. Do you know that?
And I was like, and he's like, yeah, just hear me out, because I was already all about arguing with him. You just hear me out for a second, and you know what? He made sense.
Yes.
There was truth to what he was saying. If you want to instill change, this is the only way about it. So you have to be involved, and you have to be involved the right way in the right path. So thank you, David.
Interestingly enough, I learned a lot of this from David too. So David and I became good friends a couple of years ago, and I learned a lot about this from him as well, especially with the last campaign and even before that. And we always get into like these conversations, and you know, he's said it so many times, and I'm like, David, it can't be that bad. You know, with regards to the education, is like, no, there needs to be more education out there. And now that I'm doing it myself, I called him this past week, I think, and I said, oh my God, you are 1,000% correct. We need more education.
Yeah. So important.
Yes. So hopefully I hope more, you know, people listen to this and see, you know, put yourself out there, learn about it. We're not saying you have to make a particular choice. If you're not happy with anybody, you're not happy with anybody. Exactly. But like, and I'm not telling you which way to vote. Vote however you feel like and whoever you align with. But I'm saying like, just put yourself out there and think about it and be more involved. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all I would say.
Well, I think that's great that you're getting involved and in our community, and it's so many aspects of the community. You've been long time, but now you're actually going into the political arena. So I commend you on that. Congratulations on this new journey.
Thank you.
And we're excited to hear about this, and we're going to see your whole campaign come and flourish, hopefully real soon. And you have our support. You have our community support. And whatever you need, you know, we're really excited for you, and we wish you lots of luck on this new journey.
Thank you.
And how does your husband feel about all this extra time that you're going to be contributing?
So before I gave my answer, I called my husband and I said, before I gave them my answer and got on the meeting, I forgot to mention, I called my husband and I said, so this, what do you think? He's like, okay, if you want to do it, why not? Give it a try. I'm like, why? He's like, because you're going to do it anyway. And I was like, am I that predictable? I was like, yes. He's like, you're going to want to do it anyway, and you're going to do it, and you're going to do a good job. I'm like, okay, thank you. That's all he told me. And because he knows me, and I'm always very like, you know, we could do a lot of things to change things and, you know, make things better. So, and I really appreciate that. And I'll say something actually to that extent. Like people tell me like, you know, you run your business, you know, you have the kids, you have these things you get involved with. And I'm like, yes, sometimes I don't have time for a lot of things, but I try to make time, especially when things are important. I try to make time as much as I can. And I also have, you know, thank God I'm not in it by myself.
Right.
I have a great support system. My husband's great. He lets me get into trouble and out of trouble. Because sometimes he's like, the amount of things you get yourself into.
The stories you talk to about him at the end of the day must be very interesting.
Sometimes I tell him and he's like to me, I don't know how you do things half the day. I'm like, I don't know either, because he's like, how do you get things done with so much, you know, going on? I'm like, I just do, and you have no choice. Right. But yes, he does get the stories I tell sometimes, which I'm sure you do too. You know how much stories we have in the legal field.
So many stories.
It's never a dull day or a dull moment. And at night, you get to, sometimes get somebody else on the other side who is not involved in the legal field and give you his opinion. And I'm like,
support.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'm like, maybe I didn't see it that way, but that's a good thought.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's important to have someone who supports you in
I
this
agree.
journey, and maybe it'll lead to further aspirations in the political arena, maybe congresswoman or
I don't know. Let's not get too far. We'll see.
well, we'll take it one step at a time, but we wish you lots of
Thank you.
luck.
Thank you.
And we're excited to see all the next steps that are coming.
Thank you. This was fun.
So yeah, thank you so much for listening today. We had a great podcast with Oksana Davydova, and we listened to her journey and how she ended up where she is now and her new path that she's going to be pursuing in the political arena. We wish you lots of luck. We love you and we support you, and
Thank you.
all the best to you.